Hey everybody, what is going on today? My name is Buddy Blackford. We're in After Effects CS6, and I want to go over different cameras with you and explain a little bit about cameras in this tutorial, and then I'll explain a little bit more about cameras and the different properties in other preceding or following tutorials, I guess you would say. So let's start out by explaining what I've got going on here. I'm gonna go back into I'll go back into one view, and I'll just go to like active cam or to the top view here so we can see what's going on. I've got three of the same object, different colors, lined up in 3D space. So here's one in the front, here's one in the back, and here's one in the far back. And then I've got a bunch of cameras that I made that I just put them on their default settings, but they have different millimeter lens on them. And I'm going to show you the difference between them. I have a 1-node camera and I have a 2-node camera. And then I just have a background of like wooden, whatever, just like a wooden background that I found off the internet. So it gave some pretty good contrast, and it looks kind of cool. So I decided to use that, even though there's footprints on it. But maybe someone was like running up the wall and doing like backflips off it or something like that. So let's. I'm gonna double click on my first camera here, which is I've labeled 1-node camera. And over here where it says type, there's 1-node and 2-node cameras, and these behave a little bit differently. And to me, the 1-node camera behaves like it's on a tripod. So if you put a real camera on top of a tripod, it's going to stay in one place, and you're going to be able to orbit the camera around while it's staying in one place. Now if you have a 2-node camera, it's going to move around the world and not really stay in place when you're orbiting around. And I'll demonstrate that while I'm explaining these cameras. So I want to also say that it's also the 50mm preset, which is the standard preset here. When you have an active camera, and when you don't have any cameras, After Effects defaults to the 50mm 2-node camera. Let's go into 2 views here. I'm going to go into 2 views vertical. Nope, not that one. 2 views horizontal. And we'll make this one left, and this one will be, let's set our camera to the 1-node camera. And I've hidden the other camera, so the only camera you can see right now is this 1-node camera. And I want you to watch this camera as I orbit around in the scene. I'm going to orbit around in the right hand panel, but watch the camera and look how it moves. So I'm going up and down right now. You can see that the camera is staying stationary in one spot. I'll zoom out so maybe you can see there. Just like it's on top of a tripod. So if there's a tripod legs coming out of here, it's going to stay right on there. You're not going to be able to move the camera head the camera head's position around. I'm just going to move left and right, and you can see what that does. So it basically swivels around pretty much a fixed point. Now if I turn on the 2-node camera and then switch my camera view over here to the 50mm 2-node, I'm going to click on the camera for you. Now watch how this camera moves around. It stays on a fixed point it stays on a point of interest, which is this fixed point right here. I'll zoom into it, and you can kind of see like the crosshairs. As I zoom in, the crosshairs don't get bigger. It's like the anchor point of the camera. So the anchor point of this camera is out here. The anchor point of the 1-node camera is on the camera. So I'll just move left and right, and you can see that the camera moves around that anchor point. So let's get it back to somewhere where we're in the middle, I guess, back to where it was almost. So that's the difference between the one node and the two node cameras. If you're doing a lot more advanced camera moves, use the two node camera. If you're using regular camera moves like pan and tilt and things like that, then just use the one node camera. It's whatever floats your boat basically, and whatever is better for your project. So let's check out the difference between the lengths. The 200. I created a 50 millimeter, a 20 millimeter, and a 200 millimeter camera. So as you can see, the preset here is 50 millimeter for the one that we're viewing. Now I'm just going to go into one view now, and we're just going to switch between the different cameras. Now I turned them all on, and let's go next to the 20 millimeter camera, and you can see how the spacing between these vectors here differs with each type of camera. So I'm going to go from 50 to 20. Now you can see that the spacing is way farther apart, and whatever was in front is a lot closer to the camera now. Now let me switch to the 200. And now it looks like the spacing is like barely even there. Let me track this. It looks like there's not very much spacing there. So that's how the different lengths here with your presets, that's how the different lengths there are affecting how your camera is used. So it's changing the focal length, is what it's called, of your camera. And it's probably a good idea to read up on camera lingo, basically camera keywords, things like that, so you know what I'm talking about when I say focal length, and what I'm talking about if I turn on the depth of field, and I'm talking about the aperture and f-stop and blur level. And I'll try to explain these, but you may want to read up on them a little better and get a good understanding of what's going on. You may want to check out and see what the film size does and an angle of view and all that stuff. So I'm going to hit OK, and I'll stop here, and then in the next tutorial coming up, I'll explain what focal length is and why it's important, and why does it matter, so you can learn how to pick what cameras you need to use correctly for the correct project. So thanks for watching this one. Be sure to watch the next tutorial and keep on learning about these cameras so you can become a pro at using the correct cameras for your project.